Ernest Stackhouse. Obviously, like Oscar said, I'm not that computer savvy, so I have to partner with somebody to have these sessions done. So I'm not going to boast that I know that. I'm learning a whole lot, though. But today I got my dog. And, normally they tell you that rattlers and wildcats don't mix, but hey, I love this wildcat. It's very interesting. I was telling Donovan before he started, he's the product of a deacon and a minister. And the one thing that he's noted for is that TV show, that reality show that he has, and I'm quite sure that's not a ministerial accomplishment, but some of the language, blurp, blurp, but that's done. For 23 years, he's been the band director. He's been band director at Bethune Cookman College and then University. He's a graduate of the he's a graduate of Bethune Cookman, and then he further studied at Norfolk State University. The band has done remarkable things under his leadership. I can remember the band when I was in school, and that's a few years ago, even before Donovan. And I've seen the growth of the band program, and not only is Donovan a great band director, he's a great person. And anybody who's a wildcat and have the experience of being in the band room when you weren't fined or cussed out, you know that he's a great guy. And I know most of you on the phone on this program weren't fined, but just in case you were, it was done in love. And but he's a great person. He's from Smithfield, Virginia, and Daddy Peter Boy and Ida. Yeah, that's his heart, and he loves his kids. They've been to Super Bowl. They've been to all kind of NFL games, Major League Baseball games. You name it, Wildcats have been there. And you don't need me to talk about that anymore, Donovan. We just welcome you. And if you're ready for your questions, I'm ready. You might want to say something before we begin your questions. Go ahead.
Well, look, I want to thank everyone for having me, and Mr. Stackhouse and Mr. McCloud. I appreciate y'all considering me. Any comments I make today is just off of my experiences. I don't have all the answers. I can share with you my experiences, and hopefully, through my experiences, you may find a unique way to the experiences that you have now. But these are just things that I've been through, and I don't mind sharing those things with you. But I want to make sure that you understand I'm no band Jesus. I just work hard just like everybody else. Just show up to work every day and then get your hands dirty.
Okay, well, we're ready for your question. Well, we know you're on Jesus. Since you have over 12 years of middle and high school experience, what ideas and tips would you give young and veteran band directors to establish and maintain a productive and successful program? And because of the COVID-19 virus, band directors are relegated to staying at home. What would you suggest directors do to reinforce their professional development? Donovan has all the questions, so.
Oh, yeah. But I have 12 years. I taught 12 years in the state of Virginia. I taught high school for 6 years straight out of college. Then I taught middle school for 3 years, and then I went back and taught 3 years of high school. And I taught at 4 different high schools, and people say, well, you just jumped around, and if you do a good job, people are gonna knock on your door and to come to their school and do a good job. And if they were paying more money, I went. If I didn't have to move, and that's how I got around. But one thing I would say in my experience, these are just my experiences, to establish and maintain a productive program. Fundamentals, we've heard it all the time. Just a strong diet of fundamentals. Even here at Bethune-Cookman, strong diet of fundamentals, and focus on getting each and individual player making a good sound. I don't care how well technical a kid can play. if they sound bad, they don't have a tone production. It's hard to get a good sound. And that's the first thing about music. When you hear music, it's how you sound. It's kind of like when you meet somebody, people say, well, you know, looks aren't everything. Before you get to know a person, you're going to see them, and the looks are going to attract you. So the sound is going to attract with a band, and the fundamentals will give you those sounds. Make sure that there's a daily regimen, maybe not the whole class, maybe 15 minutes. I know how time is limited. I always make sure that we're working out a method book, and we're approaching technique every day, whether it's a tonguing technique, whether it's a slurring technique, rhythmic technique, but we approach tone every day. And with my symphonic band, I think when I came to Charleston at Mr. McCloud, he was saying that kids had such an impeccable intonation and tonality. Well, that comes from tuning constantly, because the more you tune, you train the ear, and you don't have to take up your whole your whole rehearsal, go by every person every day. You know, every now and then it's good to do that. But what I would do, even here at Bethune Cookman, is just make sure that we have some form of tuning at the beginning of practice. 20 minutes later, do another group tuning. Another 20 minutes later, do another group tuning, because I want the kids' ears to hear and to understand that the longer you play, you're not going to stay where you are. You know, when fatigue set in, you're going to be a little more sharp, a little more flat. You know, things are going to change the longer you play. And as long as you know that, you know how to make the adjustments. And a lot of times it's not a horn adjustment, it's an armature and air supported adjustment. You know, that's the daily regiment. I wrote a few things down here. When I was teaching middle school, I would grade to encourage students to practice. Students were shocked when they came into band that every week there was a quiz, and you could get a D, you could get an F if you didn't come prepared. And reachable things, but if they reach those little benchmarks every week, in 6 weeks or 9 weeks, you'll be surprised at the development that they have. But make sure that there's a benchmark every day that you're reaching for when you come into the classroom. And for beginning teachers that are teaching beginners, especially in middle school, don't rush through the beginning band book. I see a lot of people do that. You know, that I finished the book. You know, your band sounds awful, but you finished the book. You know, I would take my beginners, and we might finish 50, 60% of the beginning band book. But the techniques and the fundamentals that were taught in that first half, I know that they have a good mastery of that. You know, sometimes right now, you know, we live in a society that everything is about technology. You know, people are used to hitting enter and getting results right away. And this band thing is nothing happens right away. You know, it's a process, and I don't have to tell you all that. So for beginners, I would say those things. And for your high school groups, marching and concert, a lot of times I hear bands playing arrangements or playing literature that the group is not ready for. You know, you want to be wise about the literature that you pick. And I just didn't land at Bethune Cookman. One of my situations I taught in, and I was telling Mr. Stackhouse yesterday, I taught at Surrey County High School in Surrey, Virginia. And to give you an idea how small the school was, the graduating class had 52 people in it. That's how small the school was. But they had a lot of money because the Virginia nuclear power plant was there in that county. But it's an agricultural county. In the whole county, they don't have a McDonald's. You know, it's just very rural. And when I went out there to teach, you know, I ran into a band program that had about 80 people in there, and there wasn't a method book in the class in the band building. Kids had never even seen the inside of a beginning band book. Kids, all kind of weird armatures and holding instruments incorrectly. They had a band director that had been there for 20 years. And, but they've never played any classical literature. Everything they did was by rote. And so I told the superintendent, I said, look, as an educator, these kids, I can't put them out here and perform like that. They haven't been taught anything yet. I need to teach first. And I learned a lot about teaching then. And so that I had to break the band down. We only had 10 instruments that year and 7 percussion. That was the whole entire band. The year before they had 80. And, you know, I was in that small county, everybody knows everybody. And, you know, they viewed me as Satan because I came in there and tore up the band program. But when we didn't play our first performance until homecoming. And at homecoming, you know, I did the very basic stuff that those kids could do. And we played the national anthem. We played it in a round. Every kid took a little turn playing a part of the national anthem. We finished at the end with everybody playing a ending and a chord on it. You know, just something very basic for everybody. And we were working hard, but I thought they were going to run me out the county. And they gave us a standing ovation. And my cousin came over to me. She said, we never could even sing along with the national anthem before because it was so bad, you know. So, you know, it was just knowing the limitations of the kids and put them in a good place to be successful. Sometimes we want to take a college arrangement and play it. And they may have ranges that are not suitable for your band. I had a band director tell me, he said, well, we're going to play this grade 6 piece at festival this year. I said, well, how are your woodwinds? Oh, you know, we struggling. I said, you got a full French horn section? No, I only had 2. I said, you got any double reeds? No, I ain't got no double reeds. I said, well, why are you approaching this song then? I said, that's the strength of that piece there. You got to have those, and they got to be strong to play that piece. And he said, well, you know, our rival across town, if they played it, we're going to play it this year. And that was the basis for selecting that song. So it was done on ego, and the kids weren't in the picture at all. It was all about the band director's ego. And all of us got one. I know I got an ego. You know, you just got to learn to keep it in check. You know, got to learn to keep it in check. But that's a few things that I think that hopefully will help you from my 12 years of teaching public school, that it will help you. Now with the
you want to go to the second question, or you want to do COVID?
Well, COVID-19.
Go ahead.
COVID-19, I don't know what I can say to help you there, because here at the college, you know, only thing we have to do is just send assignments to the kids, and they send them back. You know, we were on spring break when they decided for the kids not to return. So, you know, a lot of the kids didn't have instruments and all kinds of stuff. So, you know, we had to, you know, they were requiring us to send assignments. So, you know, only thing I would say is that whatever they're requiring you to do, make sure that you're doing something so that you have a record of saying that, you know, you're doing something for your kids, you know. But it is hard. You know, some kids got instruments, some don't. We had a young man in the band. He lives in Atlanta. And I was telling him, I said, you know, everybody doesn't have the internet. He didn't, and it's just him and his mom. They didn't have an internet or a computer, you know. So, you know, and so that's a college kid. So, you know, there's some tough situations out here. So, you know, I just try to make sure whatever I did for the kids and assignments and stuff, that it was reachable for everybody. What you said, second?
We're going to question 2. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. You know, Brandon said you still kept the name Satan, but okay. You have one of the top HBCU band programs in the country.
Mm-hmm.
What have you done to establish this program's identity, and what does a Bethune Cookman rehearsal look like?
Okay. Well, you know, to establish the identity, the identity kind of, you have to have a starting point, and then the identity kind of grows with your productivity. When I came back to Bethune Cookman, I came back in 96. I graduated in 84 and I came back in 96. When I came back in 96, it was kind of a band I didn't recognize, we had a huge hazing problem. We couldn't keep freshmen. They were saying the band wouldn't grow but we couldn't keep freshmen. Because at that time when I came back, the whole objective was upperclassmen to see if they could make a freshman quit. And that's unfortunate, but that's the truth. And so what I had to establish is first of all that let's get back to working and getting something done and holding everybody accountable. I had to come in and kind of expose our upperclassmen, because most of the ones that were raising hell was some of our weaker players. And it came very clear that after I started exposing them, you got all of this mouth, but you don't know your music, So I had to kind of expose some people. And then, after about, I would say halfway through the season, the kids started to realize that, man, if we come in here and do some work, we got a lot more songs than we normally have. We're doing more drills than we normally have. And they really weren't putting in as much time because they had so much foolishness in there before. So, when I came back, I didn't try to change some traditional things that we had here. Most of them I kept. I just cleaned it up. Our attention that we use now is the attention that we used when I was a student. Marching style now is the marching style we used when I was a student. When I came back, every section had a different marching style. So we went back to a uniform marching style, so drilling and making sure people played their parts and everything and hold people accountable. And then the kids start buying into the concept. And our identity has been built upon the kids that we've had in the program. Kids come up with great ideas. My job is to make sure that those ideas are taught and structured in a way that our band can execute it and look professional doing it. But our identity has came from our kids and the system that we have. I was able to put in a system in place and the system has been tweaked and changes a little bit every year. And that's going to happen because your people in the band change every year. Every year, high school and college go through the same thing. You lose some of your best players because your seniors graduate, and you get an influx of players coming in that don't know your system. They might be good players, but they still got to be indoctrinated in a system. And you want to have a system that can go from year to year. One thing I don't believe in is reinventing the wheel every year. Everything is totally new every year. You'll never get anything done. So we just put those things in place, man, and that helped with our identity. That helped with we had to have more organized practices. We went from, when I got here, we were rehearsing they started rehearsal at 6 o'clock and getting out at 11 and 12 and 1:45. And I still couldn't see what we got accomplished. So when I took over as director of bands, we started from 6 to 9 and started at 6 and we got out at 9. And one thing about kids and students, when you box them in and say, look, we're going to get this done at this point in time, or we're going to start eliminating stuff. You can't get the dance routine clean by that time. Let's take a couple of songs out of the dance routine. Then you'll see all the foolishness stop. Come on, man, we got to get it. He's going to take this part out and holding them accountable. And we very rarely go past 9 o'clock at night and during the marching season. Our symphonic band, we practice for an hour and 20 minutes, 4 days a week, and holding people accountable. So all of those things are kind of organized in practice. Sectionals, I had to move sectionals from at the end of rehearsal to the beginning of rehearsal. At the end of rehearsal, that's when all of the foolishness starts. It's dark. Somebody want to go behind the building. Let me take the tubas over here behind behind the physical plan or go over here behind the gym. That's where how a lot of foolishness starts. So from 5:15 to 5:45, we have sections, and that's on the section leader if you need it. It's not a rule that you got to have sectional every day. That's not a commandment or anything. But some weeks you have to because we have a lot of new music. A week where we're going on the road and we're taking a show that we've done at home, you may not need a sectional every day. You might only do it one day. But we did it at the beginning of practice. So at the end of practice, people leave. Go on to the dorm. Freshmen go on to the dorm. Don't nobody hang around. Get on out the building. Go on to the dorm. Go do your work. Take a shower. Get something to eat. Because after practice, that's where I found out a lot of foolishness was happening. And that has been more effective. That has been more effective because we had sections before practice. They're actually working. So that's a few things about our program and I feel we got to the point where we are now.
Okay. Everybody enjoyed that. And the third question, Donovan, how has technology altered or changed the way you operate your band program to include drill writing, communication, classroom teaching, and et cetera?
Okay, well, I'll start with music first. All of you, I'm pretty sure you know our arranger, Mr. James Portier. Awesome arranger, man. He has a creative mind. He's the first cousin to Sidney Portier, but he says the name is Portier. They're from the Bahamas, from Cat Island. But when he got to New York and got into acting, it changed to Portier, but it's Portier. And but he's a talented man. And when I was in school, I was on work study with him, and he would write a score and a condensed score of an arrangement. And my job was to go through and do the first, second, and third trumpet part, write it separately. Trombones do the same thing, write it separately. And you had to compose, do transpositions and everything because we didn't have the technology. And now one of the biggest impacts of technology now is that he can write an arrangement, man, in an afternoon because he's a tremendous keyboard player. He has a great sense of orchestration and part assignment and everything. And what technology has done from that standpoint, and Mr. McCloud, we are old enough to remember before technology. So when you wrote an arrangement, the first time you heard it was the first time the kids played it. So right. If the kids were playing the wrong note, you think you wrote something wrong. and then sometimes they playing what you put on the paper and you made a mistake because you don't have that checks and balances. Now, Mr. P can write a tune, he plays it back. He'll send a copy of the tune to me on the phone. And I might say, well, man, we just need to shorten that up a little bit, or I like that part of that section right there. Can we put a repeat right there or something? And can we put the ending a little longer? So from a technology standpoint, the music has benefited greatly, just from technology. Data processing, information about your kids, student number, instruments, any fees they need to pay, serial number of instruments that we hand out to them so we can get it back, music, anything, data processing. When I started teaching all of that, you had sheets and folders of this and sheets of that, and you had papers all over your desk. And now all of that stuff is just in a computer. So data processing, information about your kids and anything that you have, that's been a big change because there was no internet when I started teaching in '84, none whatsoever. When I started teaching, my staff paper I was doing on a carbon copy. Mr. McCloud, remember that made them purple lines, all the letters came out purple.
Oh yeah, all purple.
All purple. Yeah. So I had a carbon copy. So and then communication with your kids. right now, if I want to, just say for instance, if we were in school and we had band practice today and the weather was bad and I decided to cancel practice, excuse me, I could contact my head drum major. Each drum major has a certain number of section leaders they're going to send that message to. Each section leader has everybody in their section they send that message to. So I could make a decision, text my head drum major, and within 15 minutes, everybody in the band has marching orders of we're not going to have practice or we're going to come in an hour later or whatever the case may be. So that's been a huge help as well, with technology, cell phones, and all of that stuff. I wrote something else down. And drills. That's one area for me. I have not dabbled into technology. I've tried, and I maybe I need to try again. But years ago, I tried to get into some of the drill writing programs, and maybe I didn't have the understanding, but I just couldn't get the programs to do what I needed to do, what I had in my mind. I have a weird way of thinking, I guess when you're creative, you kind of got a weird, your mind works in a crazy way. And the way I go about doing my drills, I just couldn't get it done with those programs. So even right now, I do drills just like I did. I wrote drills when I was a student in high school, and I started writing arrangements when I was a student in high school. And I wrote drills here at Bethune Cookman when I was a student. And then when I became a teacher, high school band director straight out of college, all of my drills, all of my career over the 36 years, I've done manuscript. It just works better for me. And I have a great grasp of that. And sometimes I wish I had the technology because I can get out on the field and I've just I've added a to the rear where I shouldn't have, or I put it to the rear where it didn't put it to the rear where it should have been. And so we got to go through. I have a rank said, Mr. Wells, we're running into this rank. I said, what's your command? What's the next rank's command? Now, I have no problem telling people I made a mistake. I tell the kids, I said, all right, rank 24. I made a mistake. Take that to the rear out. So just keep on going and take the to the rear out. Let's try it again and see what happens. So that's the only downside of still doing manuscript. Whatever ideas I put together, I'm out on the field before I know whether it works or not.
Have you seen your drills grown some, and what do you attribute to the growth?
Oh yeah. Well, see, the band got bigger. I had more people. And as the band grew, I had more people the option to do things. And I'm gonna tell you what it motivated me. And this just I played a few sports in high school. I've always been a competitive guy. And as the band grew, a couple of years we went to the Florida Classic and we started to make a name for ourselves against Florida A&M, the 100. And when I first got here, the 100 was that was the epitome, and so once we started to be competitive against them, I never forget we were at the Classic, and the announcer said, okay, people, here come Bethune Cookman with their diamonds and circles. So right then and there, I said, next year you're gonna see something different. And I had to come up with a system to do my drills. And I learned a lot from drill writing, watching DCI. I really learned a lot from that, watching DCI. I wanted to make shapes and pictures on the field to compete with Florida A&M. And I really dug into DCI and watched a lot of shows and drill designs and watched them make formations. And see how I could take what they're doing and adapt to the 8-to-5, the Bill Moffitt system that we were using here at Bethune Cookman. And I got a system that I was pretty comfortable with. And over the years, I've been able to, improve upon it. you know, and then it's allowed me to make some pretty unique formations and pitches on the field.
Okay, your final question is because most people identify with your marching band, not many are aware of your outstanding symphonic bands.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, those bands represent the foundation of your program.
Right.
Can you explain your approach to developing those bands, and how does recruitment influence your decision-making, including your hall stages, your concert engagements, and performances?
Okay. I'm going to start with the recruitment first. The recruitment is a critical part to the success of Bethune Cookman since I've been here. I don't care what great ideas you have. I don't care what great arrangements you have. You know, if you don't have people and you don't have kids to execute things, you know, it's just a great idea on paper. And the band thing, it starts with students. It starts with students. It starts with talent level. And symphonic band, we've been fortunate enough to recruit some kids that came from high schools that had good symphonic band programs. And over the years, I've tried to use my scholarship dollars to make sure that our top players that were going to be in symphonic band, they were compensated a little more than your average player. And but they were held to a higher standard. But they were the players that I felt that could come in. And what I talked about earlier about sustaining a high school, middle school program with fundamentals. These people came in with, they had a good dose of fundamentals in their middle school and high school. So they brought a lot to the table. And it was just making sure we had the instrumentation to play literature. When I first got to Bethune Cookman, I came from Norcom High School out of Portsmouth. That was my last teaching job. I was only there 1 year out of Portsmouth, Virginia. And when I came to Bethune Cookman, we were preparing for spring concert. And I bought a grade 5 tune that we played at IC Norcom. And when I got here, I couldn't believe how hard they were struggling with the piece. So when I took over as band director the next year, we had better players in, but we had to start playing collegiate level literature. But at the same time, I didn't want to step into an area where they were not ready, you know. So it was built. It was a process of building, and each year trying to give them a new challenge that would make them dig a little deeper, but it was reachable. So that's some of the things that we did with the symphonic band. Like I said earlier, with our symphonic band, to get in our top symphonic band, a lot of kids we have in our band program are not in the symphonic band, and they have great technique. They can play the Morceau Symphony. They can play it to death technically, but they don't have a tone. They don't have a sonority. So one of the things that I demand here, if you're gonna be in a symphonic band, you have to have a sonority on your horn, you know, and that's what has helped us, because that's the sound. Like I said, you know, that's the first thing people notice, how well you sound. When we do a concert, I close the curtains and I play a couple of chorales. And I can hear people applauding outside for the chorales. These are basic chorales out of the tone studies. Basic chorales out of tone studies #2. But with the proper tone, the development, and approaching it not as a study, but approaching it as a piece, really milking it and making expression come out of the piece. Any piece of music you can make better. I'm not saying you can make it great, but any piece of music you can make better, you know, through the expression of it. So daily fundamentals, even with my symphonic group, this daily fundamentals, and we focus on intonation a lot. One thing I give all of my section leaders in the marching band, all of the sections in the symphonic band, every year I give them a small tuning machine and metronome, a pocket one. I give that to them because I want them to know that's how serious it is for me to make sure that you're in tune. I'm giving you a tuner, use it every day. Use it every day. And and I'm not saying that in the marching band the intonation is going to be perfect, but you know, we're in the ballpark. We're in the ballpark. You know, you're in the ballpark. You know, and then their ears are better. You get in the ballpark, then you can do some things. You might can pull it in line. You know, and so and I try to make with our symphonic band. I try to make selections. It got to be exciting for me and the student. I have picked tunes that I would love to play, and it just didn't spark anything in the students. I try to pick literature that everybody don't have to love it, but literature that's interesting in that each season I try to make sure that we have literature that they're different styles. We're not playing a bunch of the same things. And for me, with my symphonic band, I've never played a march with them. I think marches, you know, this is just my opinion. In high school, I played marches. You had your warm-up march before you went to the festival. I played marches. But when I got to collegiate, I've never with my symphonic group, we've never played a march. It's just, I would start off with concert fanfares and things like that, jack stamp stuff or something like that. But I never played in the marches with my symphonic groups. You know, that's just my little pet peeve, you know, my little pet peeve. And don't be afraid if you can justify doing something out of the norm of what everybody else is doing that makes your group better, not anybody else's. Don't be afraid to step outside of the norm. Now, I don't like the term people say get outside of the box, because sometimes that means doing some crazy job. But I will say outside of the norm. Give you an example. When I took over the band at Bethune Cookman, when we did our first parade, I said, I'm gonna line the band up differently. I lined the band up when we got to instruments. I started with trumpets. Then behind trumpets, I had French horns. Behind French horns, I had trombones. Behind trombones, I had baritones. Behind baritones, I had my tubas. My percussion was behind them, and I had woodwinds in the back. And coming down the street, people, I had kids in the band said, Mr. Wells, trombone's supposed to go first. I said, why? They said, because they got the slide. I said, now on the field, you might be in a formation or in a block on the field, and somebody's in front of you, you still got the slide, you still play, don't you? They said, yeah. I said, so that's a preference. I said, but I'm gonna put the orchestration of my brass from our high pitch from soprano all the way down to our bass voice to tuba. And coming down the street, you have a more musical sound because that melody is not covered up and you're not hitting the face with the chords from trombones and the melody can't cut through. And I didn't get that from anybody else. That's just something I wanted to try. And when I did it, I liked it. I asked the staff, Portia and Ori said, hey man, that jive sounds good. And we've been doing it ever since, you know? So don't be afraid to, if you can justify it and you feel like it's something that can really help your program, because nobody knows your program better than you. You at practice with these kids every day. You know their ins and outs. You know who's a hard worker. You know who's intelligent. You know who's trifling. You know who smoke weed. You know everything about it, So based on your program, if you feel that's something that you can do to help your program that has nothing to do with what anybody else is doing, but you can justify it and it improves your program, don't be afraid to try it. It may work, it may not work, but don't be afraid to try it. I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
I've completed all the questions that we've had. I hope we asked you some pretty good questions, but I'm gonna turn the meeting over to Stackhouse now. We'll talk.
Awesome. Thank you, sir, Mr. Wells. If there's anyone who may have a question that they'd like to ask, we're gonna take turns and let those individuals speak at this time.
Sheldon got his hand up. Sheldon.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
A lot of college band directors,
right,
when they talk about retention,
Right.
with their students, and it usually stems from the freshman class. And there's a whole bunch of things that you can get into that with the adjustment of college life and everything that goes into that. I was talking with some good brothers of mine recently, and we were talking about how nowadays a lot of students just aren't going to class.
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of bewildering to me that if you're going to college, I mean, that should be the number one thing.
Right.
But a lot of times the lure and the excitement and the camaraderie about being at an HBCU campus and being in the band, and kids get so wrapped up into that they don't go to class. And I asked the question, is there any band director out there that has any sort of way of checking up on their students? Just like if a coach of the football team or the basketball team, they make sure that these students are going to class, their athletes are going to class. Do you have something that you do in order to make sure that your students?
Hold on, I lost you. I lost you, Singleton. Mr. Singleton, I lost you.
Sorry. Basically, I was just asking if there's something that you do to make sure that your students are going to their classes of their English class or their math class or whatever have you, because a lot of times they get caught up in just loving band so much that that's all they want to do, but you still got to go to class.
Right. Well, I one thing I said when I first came to Bethune-Cookman as an educator, what disturbed me was that when we got to graduation, only one kid graduated. And that bothered me. Mm-hmm. That bothered me tremendously. So the next year when I took over, I put in a GPA. You must maintain a C average. Then a couple of years later, I put in that you must maintain full-time status. And that's 12 hours each semester. That's completing and passing 24 credit hours a year. But one thing a lot of times is, and I know how it is, when I was at a small high school, that small high school I mentioned earlier, I had one tuba. So, it's hard to put out your only tuba, and sometimes we get stuck in those situations. But fortunately, at Bethune, when kids come here, I have a meeting with them, and Mr. McCloud and Brandon and them, they all know about the meeting. I have a meeting and parents are welcome to come in. And I give the good, bad, and ugly in front of the parents. I let them know that you're here to get an education first. Now you're here on a scholarship. You have an opportunity here. Now you can blow it. You can blow it. We check, we send out a thing from band to make sure that students, just before midterm, we send something out maybe 2 or 3 weeks before, make sure kids aren't falling by the wayside. But if I got to run behind you to go to class and I'm giving you scholarship, I brought the wrong person here. And most of the time, if a kid don't want to go to class, I don't sit there and go through a whole thing of trying to make them to go to class. That's why I recruit every year, because I'm going to replace them their sophomore year. And it sounds hard, but sometimes that's what these kids need. I never forget, I had a student from Miami. Everybody was talking, he was from Carl City. Everybody was talking about, man, you don't mess with him. You don't mess with him. I called him in here and put him out the band. And all of a sudden he found out that the band was the only thing that he had. And he wanted to come back to the band. And I let him sit out for half the season, about six weeks, took his scholarship. One thing that impressed me, he went on and got a student loan to cover his scholarship. So I knew he wanted to be in school. And then he came back and he came in my office. He said, Mr. Wells, I don't have anywhere else to go. He said, I'm on probation. He said, the only reason I'm not in jail is because the judge put me on probation because I was going to college because I had a scholarship to be in the band here. And he said, if you give me one more chance, he had tears coming down his face. He said, you give me one more chance.
Wow.
I ain't gonna never be a problem for you. And he the band director at Palm Beach Lakes High School right now. Been there for, he's been an educator now for 15, 16 years. Married with 3 girls, Josh Velez. And we talk about it all the time, you know, and you got to give them tough love, but you got to make sure that, you know, if they're going to make some improvements, make sure you got a gap or a crack where they can get back in. But make sure that they show that they want to be back in. You know, but, you know, some kids, it's just like, you know, I got drug addicts in my family. Every one of y'all got them too. When they get on that stuff, until they decide they want to get off, the pastor can talk to them, grandmama can talk to them, granddaddy, uncle, aunt, mom and daddy, brother, sister. Until they decide, can't nobody help them. And when a kid come to college and they have an advantage to educate themselves, and if they come here and they want to party, you know, and I tell the girls too, I said, look, I give my talk. I said, look, you can come here and get yourself in a situation and you got to go home. And I said, you know what? He's going to be here. And while you at home expecting the baby, he here with somebody else. And I said, 9 times out of 10, you won't make it back because that baby got to be taken care of. Very few people got a network of help that would take the baby and allow you to come back to school. I said, but most times you don't make it back. And then sometime when you make it back, you get back here, he got number 2 pregnant. You know, and I just be real with the kids. Let them know that, you know, I done seen a lot. You're not fooling me. And you don't have to prove anything to me. You need to be doing this for yourself and for your parents and the people that have done a lot of things to get you here, because every black kid got a story. You know, their grandmama done helped out, the church done helped out, you know, daddy done went into his retirement. Somebody, mom and daddy done signed a Parent Plus loan. There's a whole lot of help when a black kid is. Every black kid got a story at a black school. And, you know, if you ain't gonna do it for yourself, do it for those people that have helped you, you know. And like I said, you know, I'm tough on kids about the grades. They don't make the grade, can't come back next year. You can come to school, you can't come back to the band program. Get your grades up, I'll bring you back. At a discount, but I'll bring you back.
All right, so we had a question from Ms. Pamela Burgess.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Dr. Wells. This is Pamela Burgess, and I am a fine arts coordinator of a district here in the Atlanta area.
Yes, ma'am.
I had a question about what tips could you give high school band directors or students to when it comes to scholarships and auditioning for scholarships for Bethune Cookman?
I would like to give some information that would help for every school. And what I would say is that don't think about scholarship your senior year. You need to think about scholarship when you get in the band as a freshman, just like a football player. Football player that's in the 9th grade is playing JV football, and then they go to varsity football. They're thinking about, hey man, am I going to play at the University of Florida, or am I going to play with the South Carolina Gamecocks, or am I going to play with Clemson? Am I going to play with Georgia Tech? You know, they're thinking long range. A lot of times our students, they don't think about audition until senior year. The skills that a collegiate band director most of the time are looking for, they're acquired over that 9th, 10th, 11th. They're really developed that 9th, 10th, and 11th grade years. A lot of times students don't develop much that year. Then they get serious their senior year, and you know, they think that it's going to be a Houdini. You know, all of a sudden, all of this talent is going to come out my horn. Now it's, you know, it's a high level skill that's acquired over a period of time, and that time is not quick. So I would just suggest to students, start going to solo and an ensemble in the 9th grade. You know, start picking literature in the 9th grade. And what you did in the 9th grade, try to get something a little more difficult in 10th grade. Try to get something more difficult in 11th grade. Sometimes I've seen students when I auditioned them, they're playing a solo that they played in 11th grade, their 12th grade year, and they got a great command of it. That's impressive. They know their scales. The fundamentals come through. They got a good sound on their horn. People want scholarships. That's great. Band directors want talent. You know, that's the trade-off that you got to have. Krzyzewski at Duke, he want basketball players that are talented. That's the ones you can win with. You know, band directors want players that are talented, well-rounded, that have been developed, because they're the ones that you can have a good band with. So it has to start before the senior year. And solo and ensemble, playing out of method books or Arbans or whatever the case may be. A lot of playing the different styles of music, being in different ensembles. Anything along that line that can help the development is great. But that development can't get serious that senior year. It got to get serious way before that senior year.
All right. Anyone else had a question?
Yeah, I got one. It's Adrian Wright here in Dillon, South Carolina.
Hey, how you doing, Adrian?
Pretty good, Doc. I want to know what are some of your go-to method books when you're working on fundamentals and technique?
I use, here at Bethune Cookman, we use the ensemble drills, a fussle. The ensemble drills, it has a technique section. It has a chorale section. It has some rhythmic things, and they're quick, you know, and they're broken up in these little short things. They're on 4 measures and 6 measures, 8 measures at the most. You can do 1 a day. Some days, band doing well, you can do 3 or 4 a day. And there's no one method book or technique book that's, in my opinion, that's better than the other. It's the one that fits your group the best and it fits you as a band director the best. I remember when I first started teaching, everybody said, well, you know, use the Yamaha method or use the First Division band book or use Easy Steps. I used the Best in Class. Best in Class had just came out. But I looked at Best in Class, and Best in Class, where they started at a lower note for a beginner, which would be more success at the beginning. Then the progress and the way they took it through the book, it just made more sense for me. And then later on, when I taught middle school, the same people that did Best in Class, they did Standard of Excellence, and I moved to Standard of Excellence. So, but that's what worked for me. It doesn't mean that the other books don't work, because I learned how to play trumpet on First Division band book. You know, so it doesn't mean that the other ones don't work, you know, but, you know, it's kind of like, do your research, find literature that you're comfortable with, that you think will fit the students that you have, the instrumentation that you have, and get into the result, and you think it'll give you the results that you would need to have the program that you would want, you know. So none of them are bad. You know, some are different than others, but none of them are bad, in my opinion. And these just my opinions.
All right, Mr. Wells, we got 2 more questions. We got Mr. Freeman McNair.
Okay.
Freeman, are you there? All right, we'll move on to band and orchestra had a question.
Oh, hold on. Oh, Ernest, I'm here.
Oh, here you go. All right, Freeman.
How you doing, Mr. Wells?
Hey, Freeman, late as usual.
Oh, I ain't never been late. I had my phone with me. Hey, Mr. Wells.
Yes.
I'm listening to your what you were saying about drilling and, you know, you writing drills by hand and everything.
Right.
You still do write them by hand, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now I was asking, would you ever go into, you know, the other technologies when it comes to drilling, like going into Poware or any other drilling software?
I wouldn't say never. I wouldn't say never, man, because, you know, technology changed so much, man. You know, Mr. McCloud can attest to the time where I said I would never have a cell phone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got my first cell phone in 2013. Yeah, you know, and that, you know, and everybody else had been had cell phone. I didn't want one. I didn't want one, and still don't want the one I got now. But you know, you never know what technology would change and what it would do, Freeman. So I would never say never. But Freeman, I've been teaching for 36 years. I'm an old dog right now, man. And so sometimes it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, you know. So I better stick with what I know right now.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you, man. Good to hear from you, Freeman.
Good to hear from you, Mr. Wells.
All right, band orchestra.
All right. This is Anthony Moore from Atlanta, Georgia.
Hey, how you doing?
Great. Dr. Wells, I want to first of all thank you so much for your time this afternoon and sharing wisdom.
Well, I appreciate it, man.
I want to tell you, you're one of my heroes. Now, I'm a rattler, but I love what you're doing there at the Cookman.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you, man. Look, man. Look. I was. We were talking before the show came on, man. Mr. McCloud knows some guys. I go on a fishing trip every year down to Homer, Louisiana, and there's 9 of us, and I'm the only wildcat. The other 8 are rattlers. But we have a good time, man. We have a good time, man. We have a ball, man. We have a ball, and we talk about a whole lot of things other than band, man. We have a great time. Great time.
That is awesome. Well, look, the question I have for you today
yes, sir.
is, in your opinion, what's the next step? What is the evolution of the HBCU marching band? Where do we go from here?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked it. I'm concerned. I'm concerned about the evolution of HBCU marching bands because, you know, like I said, we're in a day and age that the world is moving so fast, and I came up during a time when kids went outdoors, they played, they climbed trees, rode bicycles, played tackle football, you know, had a basketball goal in your backyard on the tree, you know. I grew up during that time, and now it's hard to even get kids to go outside. And right. Even over the 20-something years I've been at Bethune Cookman, 24 years I've been here. I remember when I first got here, and I would say over the last 3 years, the way we run our band camp has changed totally because kids are not in shape. You know, I can't run band camp like I did 20 years ago, man. You know, the kids are not in shape, and that's one aspect of it. Another aspect of it is that I see what's happening in the middle and high school. To give you an example, I was in Dade County recruiting this year. Ran across another middle school where the administration said, we're not gonna have band anymore. We're just gonna have choir. Kids want the music, they can get in choir. And he wanted to get rid of band because, you know, you have instruments, they got to be repaired. You know, heads got to be replaced on drums. You know, there's a cost to that. And you know, and I'm wondering where a lot of high school bands now, they exist because high school band directors are starting beginners. Mm-hmm. And when I first started teaching, that didn't happen. But high school band directors are starting beginners. If they don't have a high school band program. So it scares me where we're going to be at in another 10 or 15 years. This is an art form that we own, that blacks own. The historically black marching band that we own. Everybody loves it. Anytime we play a predominantly white school, the crowd loves us when we perform. And even now they're trying to pick up on some of the things that we do. But we need to take a lesson from jazz. If we didn't own jazz, now you got more non-black colleges and high schools doing jazz than us. And jazz was our music, you know. So right. we need to take a page from that and make sure that we don't let that happen with our show style, marching style, and our HBCU bands. And administration has to protect it. It has to start with administration. They have to protect it. These high school administrators that are cutting our band programs, not giving them any money. All I want is a drum line. You know, we just need somebody to play a basketball game. As long as you can do the Martin Luther King parade, I don't care what else you do. They're not holding them accountable to teaching standards or standards of learning that the state has. You know, so we got to be careful about that. We got all of these things, these crank fest and blow fest and blow each other down fest, and there's nothing academic about it at all. And we got to make sure that in the process of entertaining, we got to be educators first. If we don't do that, we're going to lose this art form. We really are. That was a great question, man. I appreciate you asking.
Thank you so much for your answer.
I appreciate it.
All right, Mr. Wells. Funny you mentioned a school administrator. So next up, we do have a school administrator on with us, Mr. Jamie Brunson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Mr. Wells. How are you?
How you doing, my friend?
Good to see you again, brother. Good to see you again.
Always.
Yes, indeed. So I'm a middle school principal here in South Carolina.
Okay.
And, I have a two-part question. First, from the music aspect, listening to your comments, I realized that you've worked on all three levels.
Yes, sir.
So could you talk to us about some of those things that have translated across levels to make your program as dynamic as it is today? Okay. And then the second part of that question, from an administrative standpoint, what are some things that you would suggest to both middle and high school directors to foster that relationship between feeder middle schools and the high schools that they feed?
Okay. The first part of the question is the things that I've done middle on all three levels that I can carry from one to the other, correct?
Right.
All right. When you're teaching, the fundamentals of teaching or playing any instrument never goes away. I learned that I was watching, I forgot what channel, it might have been PBS or something. And years ago, I might have been fresh out of college. Wynn Marsalis, they were interviewing him, and Wynn Marsalis said, I still practice every day. He said, I still work on my tone every day. I work on my technique every day. And I'm sitting there saying, man, this cat is awesome. And he said, that's how you get there. He said, the stuff that gets you there is the stuff that's going to keep you there.
Okay.
So the fundamentals, tone production, technique, breathing, sight reading, all of those fundamental things, keep them in the forefront, and just make sure when you go up a level from middle school to high school that you raise the bar on all of those things at the same time. But even now at Bethune Cookman, man, things that I've done at the middle school level, I still do now because it works.
Right.
Because it works. And my best experience, one of the things I learned the most from, I was when I went to my second teaching job, I was just doing band, and the administrator came to me the day before classes started and said, look, the choir director is not going to be here for the first week of school. She just had a baby and she's going to stay home one more week. Could you take choir? I said, no problem, for a week. So 2 weeks passed. I said, hey, man, what a choir director had? He said that, well, her and her husband decided that she's going to stay home, take a year off and stay home with the baby. I said, well, what are we going to do? He said, well, we put out a advertisement. We're advertising for the job. He said, we should have somebody by the end of the month. Just do a couple of more weeks. We're going to have somebody. Okay. Now, we down in October. I ain't seen no choir director. Nowhere. So I went to the principal. I said, look, when we going to get a choir director in here? He said, look, man, it's only one choir class. He said that you're certified K through 12 and you got 2 planning periods. And human resources said, if you certified to teach that class and you got 2 planning periods, they're going to give you that class and give you the supplement that goes with choir. Man, I was pissed. Mm-hmm. But you have to be a professional. Then I started looking at it and said, well, look, if I'm going to have choir, I'm going to do something with them. So we started doing a cappella things. We only had 14 people in the choir. Kids from around the school wanted to join the choir. So I started doing it after school, after the marching season ended. I did my Christmas concert with 68 people.
Wow.
Then it made me a better band director. It's nothing, if you get, you know you can teach when you can teach a kid to take an instrument and make it sing the lyrical line. That's making music there. And I never really grasped that concept until I was teaching choir.
Right.
Sing the lyrical line. So I went into doing choir pissed, learned something that made me a better band director, and did choir for 3 years. Did choir and band at that high school for 3 years.
Wow.
So, you know, sometimes, you know, just always look, it's always half full. I look at this coronavirus and everything. I was telling my wife, she was worried, you know, we don't want to get this and this and that, wear your mask and all of that stuff and everything. And she's right, don't get me wrong. But I said, the glass is always half full, baby. It's always half full. I said, because some people are planning funerals and we're not doing that.
Right.
So the glass is always half full. So in a situation you get into teaching, you know, sometimes just make sure you look at the glass half full. Now, what was the second part of your question?
So I talked about fostering the relationship between the middle school and high school directors.
Right.
Creating that pipeline, almost recruitment on that level.
Right. Brandon can attest to this if he's still online. When I have a class, I teach marching and concert band techniques. And one of the things I teach in that is about having a relationship with your administration, finding out how to address when you don't have the kids in your class or you got kids dumped in your class that shouldn't be in there. How to address when you have a need for certain instruments, but you don't have a budget or funding. And I said the best way to earn the respect of administration, don't go in there talking about the marching band and we can't go to this show, we can't travel here. Make sure your focus is on classroom instruction.
Right.
If your focus is on classroom instruction and you tie whatever you need to classroom instruction, that's a weak administrator that don't give you what you need for your classroom instruction. And, you know, I've been there a whole lot of times. Some administrators, you have a band background. Most administrators don't.
Right,
so,
correct.
So I would tell my administrators, hey, look, man, we need timpani drums for the marching band. You know, you know, hey, man, I said we need timpani drums for the marching band, man. We need a bass, we need another bass, we need a couple of bass clarinets for the marching band. You know, hey, man, but you know, and he saw the marching band out there. He didn't realize he was giving me my concert stuff at the same time too.
Right.
But you know, but you have to have a working relationship there, because one thing will happen if you become enemies with your administration, you know you're not gonna get anything. You know you're not gonna get anything. You know, so and there's gonna be some give and take. There's gonna be some times where you're gonna have to do some performances that you don't want to do, you know, because just like you have some things on the agenda that you would like to get done with the band program, you got to respect the fact that he or she may have some agendas that include the band that they want to have done for the school.
Right.
So, you know, it's a two-way street, but it's getting harder and harder for that relationship to mend. It is. I've seen it a lot of places. Very few places have a great relationship like that. It's in a lot of places getting harder and harder. And you can't put it all on administration. We got a lot of band directors that come out. Everybody wants to be free and have their own identity. You know, you can't. You're working in a system. You're working in a system, and you got to be reminded of that you're a part of the school system. And you can't revolve. You can't revolve yourself. Everything can't revolve around you. You have to work your system within the context of the school system, you know.
Yes, indeed. Appreciate it, Mr. Wells.
I appreciate you, man. Good seeing you.
As always.
All right, man.
One last question.
No problem. I ain't got nothing to do. We close.
Okay, all right then. We can roll. All right, well, this question is coming from Mr. Jay Pickford.
Okay, Jonathan Pickford.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Jonathan, how you doing, man?
Hey, how you doing, Mr. Wells?
I haven't had a chance to congratulate you. He's a new father, y'all. He's a new father.
Congratulations. Congrats, man.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you. How you been doing? A long time no see. But my question was, you know, you being a director at Cookman for so long, does the tradition after BCU concern you when you leave? Like, do you groom somebody else to take your place, or what's your thoughts on that?
You know, we got man, such as yourself, we got, you know, when I first got to Bethune Cookman, it was hard to find a Bethune Cookman band director. Fortunately, over the last 24 years, we have sprinkled Bethune Cookman band directors somewhere everywhere, you know, and a lot of them are holding their own and and we got some of them doing an exceptional job. So that doesn't worry me about somebody that come in behind me to take the place and continue the band. That doesn't worry me at all, because we got enough band directors out there from our program to make that happen. What worries me is that will the school still funded? Yeah, will the school still funded?
Why does that concern you? You think that'd be a problem for the future?
Well, it's just the times that we're in, man. HBCUs, and we don't have the monies that predominantly white institutions have, and the private HBCUs, they're on some hard times, man. So, you know, that's something that we would look at, and I would look at. I'm not saying that it won't happen, but it could, you know. But it is a concern. It is a concern.
Yeah. One last question. Do you have anybody in mind for that?
I got a couple of people in mind. You know, and because I'm 57. I promised my wife, I set 2 targets. My first target is 62. And if they haven't pissed me off here at Bethune, I'll stay. But if they piss me off, I'm gonna leave at 62. but at 65, I'm gonna retire regardless, man.
Oh, okay.
65, retire regardless. I'm gonna go enjoy life, man. And the grandbaby probably in high school, middle school by that time, you know, go to some plays and stuff and all of that stuff. You know, like with grandparents.
Right. I always wanted to, one last thing really this time, I always wanted to ask you, what was your most, if it was at Bethune or not, what was your most memorable band performance and why?
And we've had a lot of them, man. Well, I mean, you know, we've been blessed. We've had a lot of performances. I think I would say one of the, you know, we had a lot at the Florida Classic, but I'm gonna tell you one of the performances that really stick out to me was that year the NFL let us do the halftime for the Pro Bowl in Miami.
Yeah, I was there. I was marching.
Yeah, that was those folks went crazy, man, and that was a unique experience, man. You know, but I've been fortunate to be associated with a band that had a lot of those. You know, so you know I could name 10 that are just like that. You know, so I've been very fortunate.
Well, hey, it was real good talking to you, man.
Same here, man.
No see.
Same here, man. Take care of that little baby now.
Yes, sir. I'm back in school, getting my master's degree and everything like that now. So
congrats, man. Hey, congrats. I've been keeping up with you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
All right,
Mr. Wells.
All right, yes, sir.
From Miss, I don't know if it's a Miss or a Mr., but it's Kelly Johnson. Kelly Johnson.
That's Miss Kelly Johnson.
Miss Kelly Johnson.
Yeah, Kelly. How you doing, Kelly?
Hi, Mr. Wells. How are you, darling?
How you doing, beautiful?
I'm doing well, sweetie.
All right.
My question is just trying to get your opinion, since you've taught on all 3 levels, just about recruitment in this day and age with everything that we have to compete with, sports, academics, you know, social media, everything and it's a fight between, you know, what the kids want to do and what the parents want to do. So I just wanted to know, since you taught middle school and high school, you know, we don't have money to entice kids like you do on a collegiate level. how can we, you know, just try to recruit and build our band programs?
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you, that's a big challenge now, because you hit all the points. You know, you're dealing with a kid that's brought up in technology. You're dealing with kids that they want to play sports or whatever the case may be. Big thing that we have down here in Florida, kids are being taken out of band if they don't have if they don't score high enough on the FCAT testing. You know, they're suffering in math or in English. They use their band time to give them enrichment classes. So there are a lot of challenges. And I don't know if you were on here earlier when I said, you know, don't be afraid to plan out something that may be a little different and unique, but that will get you the results that you need, because you're dealing with unique situations now. These are not the normal situations that we are dealing with as far as recruitment and everything. And there's an economical factor too, because, you know, some parents will say, hey, look, I'm gonna put my kid in choir because I ain't buying a clarinet for her. I ain't buying no clarinet. She can get in choir if she wants some music, you know. And you know, you have that factor in there as well.
I actually heard that this year.
Yeah, you know, you have that factor as well. So, you know, it's a lot of things that you can look at. But like I said, you know, these are unusual situations when it comes to recruitment and retaining students nowadays. And so you're probably going to have to come up with some unusual solutions.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that, darling.
Oh, thank you.
All right, Mr. Wells, we have a question from Mr. Tommy Cotton.
Okay, Mr. Cotton.
How you doing? How you doing, Mr. Wells?
How you doing?
Question. Doing
Yes.
well, doing well. The quick question, dealing with a lot of kids, dealing with kids, you have to keep them motivated. And
Right.
also you try and keep your motivation in
Right.
check too, because you're dealing with all the budgets, you're dealing with, like I said, the experience, the parents and the faculty and stuff like that. How do you stay positive with all of the things that you have to constantly deal with on a day-to-day basis, dealing with the administration side of the band program?
Oh man, you ain't talked to some of my students. I ain't positive all the time. it ain't rosy all the time, you know. But I'm gonna tell you, my refuge is dealing with budgets and trustee members and administration and alumni and everything that you have on an HBCU level. My refuge is practice, man. You know, I don't care what went on during that day. When I get in practice, man, my mind empties, and I'm only concerned about what we need to get done in practice that day. So practice is so therapeutic for me, man. That kind of gives me my drive. You know, kids have asked me. A lot of my students I see their names coming up there on this call. They can tell you, you know, coming to practice, I had a flu. This year I had my sciatic nerve and couldn't walk. Mm-hmm. I got security to give me a golf cart and take me to the practice field. You know, I just love practice, man. You know, that's where the rubber meets the road. That's the ugly work that people don't see. You know, they see the pretty work, the finished product in the uniform and in the crowds and stuff, and they think it's all hunky-dory. But if you're not willing to, a band is made in practice. And so I love practice, man. And I don't care what went on during the day. And I work at an HBCU. And I work with black folks. We can talk here. I work with black folks. Right. We are the hardest people to work with on earth. In the hemisphere, we the hardest people to work with. But I wouldn't want to work with anybody else, because working with black kids is that's the most rewarding thing as a black band director that I think I can do, is work with black kids, you know. So, and I can't expect for other people to step in and educate our folks, and we ain't gonna educate them ourselves, you know. So I love working with black folks with all our problems, drama, everything that go along with dealing with us. You know, we testify on Sunday and raise hell on Monday. You know, hey man, but that's us. And we just didn't start being like that, and we ain't gonna stop being like that. That's just us, that comes with dealing with our people. But I love working with our students and working at our school. I really do.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
All right, Mr. Wells, we're winding down, sir. We got just just two more questions for you.
Okay.
One is coming from Tamiko Bridges.
Okay.
Hey, Mr. Wells.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm great. I don't know if you remember me, but
yeah, it's been a long time since I seen you.
Yeah. I called you and I didn't hear back from you, but that's okay. We're gonna keep moving.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I apologize.
That's okay. Now you found me again.
Yes, ma'am.
My background is core style.
Right.
And so when I came into teaching, I even started in the core style. And then when I came to Georgia, it was a new thing for me to learn the traditional style.
Right.
But my biggest concern is now that I'm head director again.
Okay.
I'm in the state of Mississippi where predominantly it is core style.
Right.
But there's Jackson State, there's Alcorn State, all of those that are traditional style.
Right.
And my students are predominantly that I teach are wanting to go to the HBCUs.
Right.
But in order for me to go to festival, I'm having to do core style.
Mm-hmm.
So this year I decided, you know what, to heck with this, I'm going to do what I want to do. And I did a drumline show.
Right.
It was a great show. The students enjoyed it. So I guess my question to you is, how can I get my students to take the focus off of the performance and put the focus on the preparation? Because they're all about the performance. And when the preparation side of it, that's where I am gung-ho about really making sure that my students are prepared, but they don't want to do the preparation part of it because they just want to get to the performance and shaking their behinds.
Right. Well, that's where a little tough love got to come into play. It's good to give. I tell people all the time. People say, "Hey man, how did y'all come up with those songs in the dance routine or those songs? That concert number." 75-80% of the time is a suggestion from the kids, and I'll take suggestions from the kids, and I'll tell them, even in dance committee, I say, look, I'm gonna take this out, and they'll say, no, Mr. Webb, I want to keep this in. I said, well, you got tomorrow. If it don't look good tomorrow, I'm taking it out, and give them some of the things that they want. But if they don't want to work for it, they don't deserve it. So give it to them, but they got to work to make sure that they can keep it for the performance. If they don't want to work for the performance, take it out, because that's just life. There are going to be consequences, and sometimes in public school, especially nowadays, we don't want kids to have consequences, not band directors, but the administrators sometimes, parents sometimes, they don't want kids to have consequences. Then they get out in real life, and his consequences are hitting them in the face every day, and they don't know how they can make it. And then they my age, 57 years old, still living with mama, So make sure that give them something. You're doing the right thing. Give them some of the things that they want. Let them enjoy it, but make them earn it.
Right.
If they don't want to earn it,
And I have no problem with that. It's just that.
Right.
If you don't want to learn the basics, the fundamentals, which you have been saying, the fundamentals, but music that you want to play. And so, then the other thing I have is, like you said earlier, students are not physically able to do the work. Okay, so you want to do this, but do you realize how much it's going to take for those quads to be built for you to get them knees up?
Right.
And you can't even make it one lap around the track, and you talking about you trying to do different. No, ma'am. No, you're gonna have to give me some squats. You're gonna have to give me some running. I need some mileage so that I can build your bottom half and your core so that you can produce the show that you. They don't want to do that.
Right. One thing I've done, I've shied away from the laps, and I've shied away from things that we don't do on the field. And I say, instead of getting laps, we'll march 1,000 yards up and down the field. It's good working out. It's not as hard as doing a lap, but it'll build that stamina up. And at the same time, they're working on their marching, their 8 to 5 and things of that nature. So, but like I said, because the kids that we have nowadays, when you say run a couple of laps, that kid ain't, some kids ain't, the heavy kid ain't coming back tomorrow. He ain't coming back tomorrow. Oh no, he ain't coming. Look, you done seen the last of him. He ain't coming back tomorrow. Thank you, baby.
All right, Mr. Wells.
Yes, sir.
We have a question from Miss Pamela Burgess, once again, Director of Fine Arts.
Okay.
How are you doing again? So my question kind of piggybacks off of what Tamika was just speaking of. Coming from a school district that was predominantly white.
Right.
And we have a couple of schools that are trying to make the transition over to traditional style marching.
Right.
What advice would you give those directors while making that transition to traditional style to that would help them to get the message maybe across to parents as well as other directors in their county, that it just because we're making this transition does not mean we lack musicality,
right.
And to also come to terms with the change of demographics in the area.
Right. One thing I've taught my kids that I've had in my class, my concert and marching band techniques class, one thing that I've taught them is that just because I love traditional style, if I get hired at a school that they've had a history of core bands and the kids for the most part enjoy it, the school for the most part enjoy it, the public for the most part and the community enjoy it for the most part, that's not a wise change to make. When you have a majority of the band, a majority of the parents and administration, and the administration wants it, if the majority of the kids in the administration wants it, it might can sell. But it has to be a majority push for that, not just the band director wants to go in that direction. I think what you could do in the meantime to bridge the gap, you can infuse some HBCU concepts. You can infuse some HBCU flavor, just a little spot here and a little spot there. And if that goes well, the next year you might can, instead of 1 spoonful, you can give them 2 or 3 spoonfuls of it. So, and then over time, you make it to a point that say, well, look, we're going to try, we've been dibbling and dabbling and we got so close to it. We're going to try to change over this year. So I would approach it from that standpoint because my dad was a preacher and my dad used to tell me all the time, he said, son, I don't care what I want to do at church. He said, if the people of the church don't want it, it's not going to happen. So no matter what a band director wants to do, if the school, the kids, and the administration does not want traditional band, it's not going to happen.
Well, what if you have a school where it is wanted, but it's frowned upon in the surrounding community, but this particular school within this larger community does want this? How do you help that band director overcome the negativity that they may receive from other directors in their county? But their particular community wants it.
All right. If it's frowned upon, for a second, just put the marching band aside and make sure that your band program, concert-wise, is going to festival and making strong ratings. Your kids are participating in district band and getting seats in district band. Make sure your students are going to solo and ensemble and get strong ratings. Then the people that are frowning upon it, they can't question. Only thing they may not like is the style, but what you have proven is that they're getting a quality music education at your high school, just like they are at their school. So you got to make sure that happens, and make sure that the style stuff is not in the classroom. That's all after school. In the classroom, that method books, scale studies and things of that nature, tone studies and all of those things. That's for the classroom.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am.
All right, last question. We have Dexter Bailey. I think I skipped his question earlier. Yes.
Dexter. Is Dexter here?
Dexter still on with us?
What's good, man?
Hey, what's up, man? How's it going, man?
Hey, man, I can't complain. How you doing?
All right. Everybody, Dexter is one of my students. Dexter has been running my high school band camp for what, 10 years?
Well, man, maybe like 15.
Yeah, 15 years. He's been running my high school band camp. Real proud of the work he's doing at Creekside too, man. But what's your question?
I appreciate it. So this is kind of going to go back to the things about, just the finance and the business side of the program. Just kind of talk a little bit about some things that you would suggest that may work for maybe like a director that's, fresh out or moving to a new situation in terms of just trying to get the budgeting and the financing straight to run the program. And I asked that because as a student, if it's one thing I noticed through the program, I always notice like the business moved very, very well, and that there's a system and there's a process to doing that. So could you kind of just like talk about or give us some helpful hints on some things that we could probably do on our business side, whether it's with boosters or budgeting anything to make our programs move fluently?
Right. One thing, and I spoke with the gentleman earlier, I think it was, I forgot his name, but the principal. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure you keep a good relationship with administration and make sure you keep them aware of your needs of the program. Instructional needs is their responsibility. Extracurricular needs could be the band director's responsibility and booster responsibility. Instructional needs should not be the responsibility of the parent and the band director, because that's tax money. That's tax money. And that's a class. That's a class. A kid take computers, they don't have to buy a computer to take computer class. So we got a kid that can't afford an instrument and he's in band class. Schools need to have some surplus instrument. But that's for instruction. You can't put a kid in a band, well, you shouldn't, I put it this way. Kids shouldn't be in a band class that don't have an instrument. And from the business side, man, fundraising is a critical part of being a high school band director. I sold my first job, I sold I think it was Valley Brook cheese and cookies.
Representing the highway industry.
Man, being a young band director, I let kids take out and get all of these orders and everything. And they got all of these orders and everything.
Winter construction shutdown.
I didn't let them bring the money. Cookies and come on back. The boy came back and said somebody stole his money. And then he had on a pair of what was they Magic Johnson sneakers the next week. I learned a lot. I tried to do fundraisers where I didn't have to put out money and the profit was ours. I would do dances, talent shows. I had band competitions, anything that I could do where we sold tickets, generate excitement, and we kept majority of the profit. Our boosters used to do concessions and other things and stuff. We sold some things at some point in time. I never sold anything that it was a 50-50 split. It had to be 60-40 or 70-30. 50-50 split. I didn't do anything like that. But but like I said, it's a different day and time now. I don't know if you want money coming through kids' hands when they sell stuff.
And especially with what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Because I know that's gonna impact all of us whenever we get the call to go back. That the economy is different and the money flow is different now.
Oh yeah. And well, speaking of right now, I was watching the news last night. The states are suffering because the government has left so much of responsibility on them. there was an analyst on last night. He was saying that if school starts in the fall, there's going to be a shortage of teachers because a lot of states are short on money now. You know, a lot of states are short on money now. When it comes down to HBCUs, Bethune Cookman included, our private HBCUs, some of us may not fare as well during this virus. You know, we may not fare as well, and I'm really worried if we don't have school in the fall. If the virus is still around and we don't have school in the fall, I'm really worried for HBCU bands and the teachers in general, because when money runs short, they're gonna have you teaching math on your planning period.
Yeah.
You know, when money runs short. You know. So,
yeah.
But from the business side, man, anything that we've always done, I've always made sure our books were clean. I was upfront with administration about cost and any kind of revenue that we generated from whether it was a pro game or when we did a commercial or in a movie or a television show or whatever. I made sure that everything was clear and all the paperwork went through the legal office here on campus. You know, and from a business standpoint, you don't want anything going on, even if it's above board. You don't want anything going on that your administration don't know about.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, that's all I wanted to.
All right, man.
That's all I wanted to ask, man. Just been sitting and listening.
All right, man. Appreciate you being on, man.
For sure, man.
Mr. Wells, I think Charlton wanted to piggyback off of that last comment.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess my my question about that is that with your band being so well known and so visible across the United States, let alone just in the HBCU world or whatever have you, has that been an advantage for you, and have you been able to use that with your administration to basically say, you know, look, I'm probably the most, you know, important, well, or the most visible organization, including the football team and the basketball team or whatever have you, and are you helping me because I'm definitely bringing students to the university? So how does that help you, you know, with the budgeting, you know, and asking the university to you know, put some more money on you?
Well, you know, over the years, we've been able to maintain our budget for the most part. And a lot of that, you know, and it's a continuous fight. You know, every year I got to go before the board of trustees to justify what I'm asking. I never get what I'm asking, but I ask for the world. And if I can get a continent, that's cool.
Right.
You know? But the thing of it is that no, you got to garner any accolades that your band does. You got to garner those with your administration and let them know that this band is an asset not only to the school but to the community. This band shows not just musical excellence, there's academic excellence. And a lot of times you have to remind administrators and stuff that being a musician is a high level intellectual skill that's acquired over a long period of time. It's not luck that a band sounds good. It's not luck. You know, it's a lot of hard work and it's a lot of skill and intellect in those kids. Over the years, we were in drumline, and I was calling Fox, asking them what was the numbers, how many people have seen the movie, and I would put that in my report. You know, I would try to find the Nielsen ratings when we were on anything, or the expected approximate number of people that watched when we did a show for ESPN, The Battle. Just recently, I used a Netflix show. I said, look, we're in 163 countries. Netflix, 100 people in 163 countries can choose to watch the Bethune Cookman Band, and that takes the name of Bethune Cookman University to countries where we didn't never go to before.
Exactly.
When the show first came out, I got emails from France, Germany, Australia, New Zealand, people that had watched the show. And I kept me a file of those things, man. When I went to the board of trustees, man, I had me a little booklet printed out for everybody. Take them with you, read it at your leisure, you know, so they can see the value that we bring to the table. And so we're not just a band that's out there that shows up for homecoming and for the Florida Classic to appease alumni. We're a band that we try to portray to them that we're a traveling billboard for this university.
Exactly.
And that we expose the likeness of Mary McCloud Bethune and Bethune Cookman to University to millions, hundreds of millions of people that no other facet of this college can do.
Can you give me a rough estimate of what the ratio is of music majors to non-music majors is in your band?
In the marching band, I would say we probably have 50, 60 music majors. Would that be fair? 50, 60 music majors in the marching band. In my symphonic band, I would say it's about 70%.
I always try to tell folks about how, I mean, there's your, like you said, your walk-in advertisement right there with all of the different majors and schools represented or represented in the marching band and in the band program. English majors, engineering majors, whatever the case may be. I just always, as a band geek, I always maintain that your administration should be using that as, you know, definitely your advertisement for your institution. Who better than the you know, the marching band that you see, that you hear, that you love so much, you know? And I always thought that was a good bargaining chip. So I applaud you on having your stack of stuff to go in there and say, look, this is what we're doing.
Oh man, you know, it's just like recruiting, man. You got to sell it. You know, you got to sell it. And to piggyback on that, man, you know, sometimes you have some of my challenges hasn't been administration as much as it has been right in our department, the music department. In the department, because
oh yeah,
woo,
you will have instructors that have a stigma against the band, you know, because of the attention that the band
jealousy.
And what they fail to realize in our music department, I had to make our department aware of this. Some people in our department aware of this. That's from another community. I'll put it that way. I had to make them understand that you're teaching a classroom full of music majors, and 70% of them are from the band. Tell me, how many students have you brought to Bethune Cookman? How many students have come here to study under you?
Right.
None. They come to be a part of this band program.
Right.
So this band program give you a class load so you can get a full-time salary.
Right.
You know, so you need to check yourself now. You need to check yourself.
Just facts.
Yeah, just facts. Just facts, man. Just facts.
Just facts.
Just facts. You know, but I've had to make that clear to quite a few people in our department, and saying what, or they're going to schedule. We practice 6 in the evening. They're going to schedule a rehearsal, or going to schedule this and that includes band people. So they can't make it. So they can't make it now. You know, it can't make it. It's 21 other hours in a day you can have it. But then from 6 to 9, you can't have it and have these kids in there. You know, they're on scholarship and these things that we got to do. And, you know, I've been labeled the bad guy for it. I don't have a problem with that, you know, because they have nothing to offer these kids. They have nothing to offer these kids. And you know, my goal, I tell the kids when they come in, is 2 times I'm glad to see you. When you report for band camp as a freshman and when you graduate as a senior. They're the two best times I want to see.
Mm-hmm. But Mr. Wells.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Sir.
You're welcome, man.
Wow. All I can say is, wow, man. This has been an awesome, awesome experience.
Hey, man.
Doing this for us. Once again, to everyone out there, I applaud you all for getting on with us and sticking through and hearing all this good information from Mr. Wells and Mr. McCloud. I appreciate everything you do in the state of South Carolina for not just the students in Charleston, South Carolina, but students all over the state with your HBCU band recruitment fair and all the other activities that you constantly do year in and year out. Before we get off, I just want to remind everyone that this podcast is sponsored by AMMEA, which is the Advocates for Music and Music Education Association, which I am the CEO. And our mission is to cultivate, support, and enhance music and music education in the state of South Carolina through fostering academic partnerships, professional learning opportunities, and resources for classrooms. And Mr. Wells, I thank you for contributing greatly to that effort today. If there are any other comments that need to be said, we're going to go ahead and sign off. And I appreciate everyone for attending.
We'll see him next Tuesday.
Yeah,
thank you, sir.
Thank y'all for having me, man. This has been my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Y'all be safe. Be safe.